discover the incredible transformation. When the cleaner stepped up, hearts were forever changed. In the small town of Maple Grove, a storm of desperation threatened to wash away the heart of their beloved Veterans Fair. As the clouds gathered and the floodwaters rose, whispers of despair tangled with the sweet scent of pie cooling on window sills. Among the chaos, Henry, the town's humble janitor, stood there, a common face in a patched uniform and worn-out shoes. Yet hidden behind the bristles of his broom lay a resolve as solid as the oak trees lining Maple Grove's streets. Henry, looked over by many but known to all, felt a surge of duty rise within him. "Not on my watch," he muttered, fists clenched. Henry had spent his life making sure the high school was spotless, scrubbing away grime but never quite managing to erase the invisible lines of class that divided the town. He often sensed the unspoken contempt from those who crossed paths with him, but he had learned to steel himself for it, to find solace in the belief that community truly mattered. And now, as the rain poured down and flooded the park, the essence of that belief propelled him into action. "Hey, everyone!" Henry's voice rang out alongside the downpour as he called on neighbors, friends, even the families who had turned their backs on him in the past. "We can't let this fair drown. Let us come together." And in that moment, hope flickered. Families emerged, some reluctant, vowing to help, but as they gathered, the undercurrents of disbelief began to bubble up, rattling the fragile unity Henry tried so hard to create. Eyes rolled behind their backs as whispers of "He's just a janitor" skirmished with pleas for teamwork. It stung, and doubt gnawed at his conscience. Was he truly fit to lead this effort? The spiraling tension reached a peak after a fundraiser fell short. The weight of despair settled heavily on him. He had convinced them to believe, and now they were slipping away. Could he face the familiar shadow of insignificance again? Taking a deep breath, Henry refused to wallow in defeat. As days blurred into a frantic hustle towards the fair, he digged deep and stumbled upon a hidden passion. Within the chaos came a spark. Creativity surged. He began turning salvaged debris from the flood into art. He transformed wood and metal into stunning displays that captured the essence of their town's spirit. As he unveiled these works to his former classmates, a surprising respect began to bloom. "Wow, Henry," one of them hesitated in awe. "Where did you learn to do this?" The wall between them started to crack. With laughter and shared stories, the bitter tastes of prejudice softened, and understanding began to creep in. On the eve of the Veterans Fair, emotions ran high. Cheers intertwined with unresolved tensions as the town lined up next to Henry's creations. As they prepared for the big day, he stood at the edge of the crowd, heart racing with hope and fear woven tightly together. Could his courage truly reshape their perception? Would they finally embrace their shared humanity over class? The answers hung thick in the air, and the dawn of that day promised change, or perhaps just the beginning of a longer journey. As the sun crested over Maple Grove, the sky painted in hues of orange and pink, the anticipation buzzed like a current of electricity in the cool morning air. Henry stood by his creations, now bright and alive in the early light. Each piece breathed the spirit of the community. A wheelbarrow turned into a flower display, old barn doors repurposed as cheerful backdrops for photos. He ran his hands over the rough wood, feeling a surge of pride swell within him. Today wasn't just an event, it was a chance to show what they could achieve together. But as the town began to fill the park, an uneasy feeling nestled in Henry's stomach. He spotted familiar faces, those who smiled politely but had never invited him to share in their lives. They nodded, but he could see the hesitation in their eyes. Would they see him as a leader, or just a janitor with a few lucky projects? The opening ceremony commenced, excitement rippling through the crowd. The mayor delivered a heartfelt speech of gratitude, praising Henry's efforts. "We owe it to ourselves to remember that every voice matters," he declared. Henry felt a warmth spread through him, but as a smattering of applause broke out, he couldn't shake the memory of the derisive comments that had followed him through the years. What if they only cheered out of obligation, out of pity? Then came the moment, the official opening. Henry stood beside the mayor, his heart hammering against his chest as the ribbon was cut. Cheers erupted. People jostled to take photos, laughter bubbling up like the celebratory soda being poured. He watched as families flocked to his displays, pointing and smiling. Suddenly, the flood of doubt receded slightly, only to be replaced by a swell of hope. Yet, amid the jubilation, Henry's eye caught sight of Clara, his former classmate, her face betraying discomfort as she folded her arms tightly. A pang struck him. Clara had always been at the forefront of the judgment, her whispers slicing through the air sharper than any storm. But as he made his way toward her, determination ignited within him. Maybe this time could be different. "Clara!" he called, his voice steady despite the nerves. Her eyes widened, and for a moment, he feared she might turn away. But she stayed. "Henry," she said, her voice hesitant. These are amazing. The art, it's beautiful." "Thanks," he replied, the word hanging between them like a bridge. "I was inspired by our town, by the people here." Clara shifted her weight, a flicker of something unspoken danced across her features. "I never thought you had it in you." There was an honesty in her words, an openness that stirred hope deep within him. "None of us expect to discover what we can do until we try," he responded softly, hoping that maybe his journey could inspire others, including her, and just then, the atmosphere shifted. More friends and neighbors joined them, gathering around to admire the displays. Each person brought their own stories, laughter flowing freely, weaving a tapestry of community that Henry had longed for. The air felt lighter, infused with shared purpose and joy, yet as the day drifted toward evening, Henry noticed Clara catching glances from others, some with looks of disbelief, others with intrigue. He felt a knot tighten. This moment was fragile. Would they embrace this newfound unity, or would it dissolve into old prejudices as daylight faded? A sudden commotion drew their attention. A child squealed, pointing at a large, colorful kite that danced in the evening breeze, tugging at the strings of nostalgia. Laughter erupted, and Henry felt a flicker of trepidation. This was still just the beginning. Beneath the surface, tension simmered, but he took a deep breath, gripping the moment tightly, knowing the fair was more than a collection of booths and activities. It was a first step. Could they really foster lasting change? Could their hearts truly open? As the sun dipped below the horizon, Henry glanced around at the mingling townsfolk. Was he ready to lead them beyond this fair, to challenge the preconceived notions that lingered? The moment felt charged, full of potential and uncertainty, and he knew that tomorrow would bring new struggles that could either tear them apart or bring them closer together. And there, amidst the laughter and glimmering lights, a voice within urged him to dig deeper. What lay beyond this fair? What could he discover if he pushed further? The journey was just beginning. The night rolled in, draping the fair in a blanket of stars. Laughter still filled the air, but Henry felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. As families mingled, sharing stories and smiles, he caught sight of Clara speaking with a small group of their old classmates. He held his breath, yearning for a moment when she would acknowledge him again, not as the janitor he once was, but as someone who had made a difference. With each cheerful sound drifting toward him, Henry's heart thumped louder. He clasped his hands together to steady himself, feeling the urge to join them. But what would he say? Realizations washed over him like waves. Years had passed since they'd all walked the halls of their high school, but it felt like yesterday. In that moment, he remembered the old fractures. The laughter had once felt more like judgment. Clara laughed, and the sound sent a ripple of discomfort through him. Would she remember those moments? The way they had teased him in the cafeteria? He swallowed hard. But he also remembered the glimmers of shared experiences, the times when they had worked side by side in community service projects, before isolation had set in. Maybe she could remember those too. Taking a deep breath, Henry approached the cluster of voices. As he drew closer, he could see Clara's face lighting up with genuine happiness. Her hair glimmered under the fairy lights, her laughter was infectious. A child tugged at her sleeve, eager to announce, "Look at my kite." "Wow! It's so big." Clara beamed. Henry smiled, there was something uplifting about her impossible warmth. He cleared his throat, the sound barely cutting through the jubilant noise around them. "Clara," he ventured, emotion spilling uninvited into his voice, "can I join you all?" Surprise transformed Clara's expression, but her eyes softened. "Of course, Henry. We were just talking about the artists who contributed to tonight." "Yeah," a voice chimed in, "tell us your inspiration. These displays are incredible." All eyes turned to him, a mix of wonder and uncertainty swirling in the air. It was here, standing amidst those who once viewed him as less than deserving, that he felt an unlikely swell of courage. The words tumbled out of him, raw and real. "I wanted to create something that reflected all of us, the beautiful, quirky parts of Maple Grove." A few nods followed, Clara's gaze held steady, something unspoken flickered between them. "You've always had that gift, Henry." "I think we all just," she hesitated, glancing behind her as if searching for safety in the crowd. "We all assumed the roles we were given." The heart of what she said hung in the air, unbroken yet heavy. A stirring of courage nestled deep within Henry, clashing with the fears that had, until now, gripped him. "We can change that," he declared, earning puzzled looks. "If I can do this show what I can contribute, then so can all of you." Henry ventured a glance at Clara, and in that moment, he saw a flicker of something interest. Instinctively, he pulled together his thoughts like threads weaving a tapestry. "This fair is the start, not the end. We hold the power to redefine who we are." The group fell silent, the chatter around them simmered down as people began to soak in what he was saying. Some heads nodded in agreement, Clara's eyes glimmered with an emotion he couldn't quite place, hope, maybe, yet, just as he felt a spark ignite in the crowd, a loud shout erupted from nearby. A ruckus broke out. Henry's heart raced as he turned to see people gathering, pointing at a tent that had begun to collapse, caught in a gust of wind. "Help!" a familiar voice echoed. It was Mrs. Thompson, the kind-hearted community center director, struggling to keep the structure from falling. In an instant, uncertainty evaporated, replaced by urgency. Henry darted toward the crowd, adrenaline fueling his steps. Clara and others followed closely, weaving through the people. Was that fear he sensed in them? As they reached the tent, he felt the pressure of judgment fall away, replaced by a shared responsibility. Could this be the turning point where they all came together? "On three!" he shouted, rallying the group, and at that moment, he knew one thing: no matter what happened next, they were in this together. Could this collective effort not just save a tent but bridge the gap in their community? As they braced themselves, hearts racing and sweat glistening, Henry wondered, after this night, what would they become? Would this be the spark that transformed everything? Would hearts continue to open, or would barriers once again rise, stronger than ever? As Henry's voice cut through the chaos, the surrounding crowd shifted from curiosity to action. His heart pounded in rhythm with the shouts and frantic gestures around him. Clara stood beside him, determination etched on her face, and he drew strength from the fire igniting in her eyes. "On three!" he called again, keeping his gaze fixed on the tent. The wind howled, and the canvas whipped wildly, begging for help. 1, 2, 3. With a collective grunt, the group surged forward, pushing against the flapping fabric. Hands grasped at the poles, the tent quaked uncertainly. Henry felt a familiar anxiety settle in his chest but fought it back, driven by an unfamiliar sense of unity. As they held fast, Clara shouted instructions, her voice ringing clear. "We need more people at the corners. Grab those stakes." Henry motioned for a few nearby teenagers, adrenaline bubbling inside him. "You help us anchor this." Their faces sprouted with earnest energy, their earlier hesitation washed away by the urgency of the moment. Together, they worked feverishly. Each pull, each shout, each ounce of determination was shared. The winds continued to wrestle with them, but they pushed back even harder. With teamwork, they lowered the tent just enough for Mrs. Thompson to secure the last stake, when the tent finally settled, the tension poured out of the group like air from a popped balloon. Breathing heavily, Henry wiped sweat from his brow, an emotional wave crashing over him. They did it. They really did it. Cheers erupted around him, and he turned to find Clara lighting up with pride. That was incredible, everyone. Her laughter rang music to Henry's ears. The uncertainty he had felt just moments ago melted amidst their collective triumph, yet, amidst the celebration, a question danced in Henry's mind. Did this moment mean more than just saving a tent? Could it symbolize the blossoming of something vast and new for their community? As the shock and excitement settled, he found himself standing alone with Clara. She had stepped closer, her voice softer now. "Henry, you really brought everyone together. I didn't think we could do that. I thought everyone was too far gone in their own worlds." "I didn't know we could either," Henry admitted, his fingers brushing against the fabric of the tent, feeling the pulse of the crowd around them. "But when it mattered, we all reached out, even the ones we thought didn't care." Clara nodded, a spark in her eye. "Do you think we can keep this going? I mean, this feeling? We can't just let it end here." "Maybe this is just the beginning," he suggested, hope rising in his chest. "We could organize more events. Get everyone involved. Community projects, art exhibitions, even workshops. Anything that brings us together." Her face lit up, and for a brief moment, it felt like the world shrank around them. "Let us do it. Let's show Maple Grove how much we can create if we all come together." As they spoke, the crowd began to disperse, the evening returning to its playful chatter and laughter. Henry felt momentum stir in him, a sense of purpose igniting in his heart. But just as they began to plan their next steps, a loud crash echoed from the other side of the fairgrounds. The sudden sound made them both jump, eyes wide with a mix of concern and curiosity. "What was that?" Clara whispered, and Henry felt a chill run down his spine. In that instant, he understood tonight was only the start. Another challenge loomed on the horizon, and it had the potential to either bind them closer or tear them apart. As they cautiously approached the noise, Henry's heart raced with anticipation. What awaited them could change everything once again. Would this test shatter the bonds they had begun to form, or would it solidify their newfound connection? As they stepped closer to the source of the noise, the evening light glimmered off the remnants of what had once been a booth filled with colorful crafts and vibrant local art. A table lay overturned, displays scattered like fallen leaves, and the chaos of the wind hadn't just disrupted a tent but had wreaked havoc on the heart of the fair itself. "Look!" Clara shouted, pointing to a group of kids huddled around the broken booth. They seemed to be trying to gather the pieces, their expressions a mix of confusion and guilt. Henry felt a surge of protectiveness for the little ones. They shouldn't have to carry the weight of this mistake. "Hey!" he called out, his voice cutting through the lingering chaos. The children turned to him, wide-eyed and fearful. "It's okay. You didn't mean for this to happen. Let us figure this out together." The hesitant nods that met his words made him realize how fragile their confidence was. Clara stepped forward, her aura radiating calm. "We can all help. This is still our fair, and we can make it better." With renewed purpose, Henry reached down and picked up some handmade picture frames that had fallen to the ground. They were painted bright yellow and green, the handiwork of Samuel, a local artist who taught some of these kids. The frames were cracked, but the spirit of them, what they represented, made him want to salvage everything he could. The children began to join in, some picking up shards while others tried to reassemble the booth. Their laughter, a blend of frustration and hope, filled the air as Clara added, "If we had a little help, this could turn into something amazing again. Can we get some adults over here?" Henry watched as Clara waved over a few volunteers, the ones who had just moments ago celebrated the rescue of the tent. Their eyes lit up at the sight of the scattered art pieces. There was no hesitation at all. With each passing moment, the initial worry faded. Henry felt something shift in him, a sense of identity that he hadn't noticed before. This was his home, a place where these kids felt safe, and he would help protect that. As older members of the community joined them, a spirit of collaboration ignited. Together, they shared ideas on how to rebuild the booth. They could incorporate new designs, maybe even host small workshops on how to create art. It was electrifying, and just like that, the air crackled with excitement. Through laughter, the children began painting over the chipped surfaces. Clara crafted a new sign that read, "Art is resilient." Bright colors splashed across the board as the little hands helped her spread paint with enthusiasm. It beckoned those passing by to become part of something greater than an overturned booth. It invited them to be part of a vision, a movement toward renewal. Amidst the newfound energy, Henry caught Clara's eye, her smile radiating joy. They didn't need to talk, the connection between them deepened with every stroke of the brush. Just then, they heard the crashing sound again, but this time it came from behind them, even louder, more chaotic. The collective gasp from the crowd sent shivers down Henry's spine. He turned to see a large display collapsing, and it seemed to take everything in its path down with it. "What now?" Clara whispered, her voice barely cutting through the panic in the air. Henry's heart raced. They had just begun to grasp one challenge, and now another loomed, bigger and scarier. Would this be the moment that broke their spirit, or would it serve as another chance to unite their community? The answer was waiting, right around that corner, and the stakes felt higher than ever. When the sound of shattering wood and metal rang out, panic surged through the crowd like a tidal wave. The vibrant atmosphere of the fair darkened in an instant as people turned to witness the catastrophe unfolding before them. The sight of bright decorations tumbling to the ground struck a heavy chord in Henry's heart. "Everyone, stay calm," he shouted, though his own voice trembled. He stepped closer to Clara, who was already scanning the scene. She exuded a quiet strength, even amidst the chaos. They had made such progress, and now it felt as if everything was unraveling. "Let us get organized," Clara exclaimed, her eyes locking onto Henry's. "We need to check if anyone is hurt first. Then we can figure out how to save the rest." Henry could feel the adrenaline coursing through him. He took a deep breath, trying to channel his racing thoughts into action. The older volunteers were already moving, rallying the children and adults alike. Together, they formed a human chain, moving debris aside and searching for injured parties. The air was charged with anxiety and determination. Henry found himself working alongside Clara, their movements synchronized as they collected broken pieces and encouraged the worried bystanders. As the crowd settled into a rhythm, murmurings of hope began to replace cries of alarm. One child fell to their knees, sniffling over a ruined art piece. Without thinking, Henry crouched beside them, gently lifting the broken canvas to expose the bright colors beneath. "Look," he said softly, "this paint isn't gone. We just need to find a way to bring it back to life." The little one sniffed and nodded, lifting their head with newfound resolve. The emotion in the child's eyes reminded Henry of how resilience could spark hope in the most unexpected moments. He patted the kid's shoulder, feeling a rush of warmth inside himself. Clara turned to him, "When we fix this, it'll be even better than before." "Do you really think so?" he asked, feeling the weight of their circumstances pressing heavily upon him. "I know so. Look at us. We're a team," she exclaimed, her certainty infectious. The sight of families and friends coming together reignited that initial spark of magic they'd shared while painting the booth. He realized this new challenge could become a turning point, not just for them but for the entire fair. It could symbolize their strength as a community, unyielding in the face of adversity. As they wrangled the last of the debris, inspiration struck Henry, and he shouted out to the crowd, "Let us turn this around. We've got artists, we've got makers. We can create something that means even more to us." The voices of the volunteers joined in, echoing his enthusiasm, the energy palpable. Working side by side with Clara, their laughter mingled with others as jokes and light-hearted comments began to fill the air. They were no longer just fixing a booth, they were weaving threads of connection through shared effort and creativity. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows over their work. Henry felt a gnawing unease at the back of his mind. Just as they seemed to have taken control, he noticed a figure moving in the distance. A man, dressed in dark clothing, watched the scene unfold with an unsettling smile. "Who is that?" he murmured, feeling the knot in his stomach tighten. Clara glanced in the direction he pointed, her expression shifting from joy to concern. "I don't know," she replied, her voice low. But something feels off. The evening air thickened with tension, leaving Henry wondering, was this new presence a threat or could he be an unexpected ally? The outcome loomed ahead, and they were about to find out just how deep their community ties truly ran. Henry kept his eyes glued to the figure in the distance. The man's smile was unsettling and made the pit in his stomach deepen. The crowd seemed to pulse with energy, yet a crack of uncertainty lurked just below the surface. "Should we say something?" Clara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Henry could see other people glancing over, concerns ticking through their faces. "We can't just ignore him," he finally replied. "But let us focus on what we can control right now." He forced himself to look away and turn back to the task at hand. The crowd worked tirelessly, piecing together what remained of their fare. With each brush stroke and laughter shared, the atmosphere shifted, slowly pushing away the heaviness of earlier. "Look what we did!" Clara exclaimed, her hands covered in paint. She beamed, her smile lighting the dim light of the evening. "This is going to be amazing." As Henry stepped back to admire their work, a wave of pride washed over him. It wasn't just a booth anymore, it was a mosaic of their challenge, stitched together with hope and resilience. But the nagging presence of the stranger was like an itch in his mind. He stole another glance, and found the man still watching, arms crossed, as if he was waiting for something. Henry felt a chill creep down his spine as the man's gaze shifted to him, their eyes locking briefly. Henry's heart quickened. "Do you want to check it out?" Clara whispered, sensing his tension. "I don't know," he hesitated, unsure if facing the unknown would only make things worse. "Whatever it is, we can handle it together. We've been doing it all day," Clara encouraged, squeezing his arm for emphasis. With a reluctant nod, Henry began to move away from the bustling crowd, Clara at his side. As they approached the man, the tension in the air thickened. "Excuse me," Henry called, attempting to sound more confident than he felt. "Can we help you with something?" The man turned slowly, and as he stepped into the dim light, Henry could see more clearly now. His clothes were frayed and worn, his hair long and unkempt, but there was a strange glimmer in his eyes. "I came to see the creativity that rises from chaos," he stated, his voice smooth yet gravelly. "This type of transformation isn't ordinary." "Who are you?" Clara asked, her directness cutting through the air. "I am someone who appreciates the beauty in rebuilding," he responded, a slight smile creeping onto his face again. "And you have all shown remarkable spirit tonight." Henry exchanged a glance with Clara, unsure how to interpret the man's words. "What do you mean?" "Every broken piece you mend holds a story. The heart of a community shines brightest when challenges arise." He pointed toward the booth. "What you are creating here can inspire others far beyond this fair." Henry felt an unexpected swell of hope stir within him. "Maybe we can." The man nodded slowly, his eyes glinting like shards of glass catching the last of the twilight. "Your work isn't just about the fair. It's about revealing what lies beneath the surface." Before Henry could respond, the man stepped back, his gaze still fixed on them. "Remember, strength lies not in perfection, but in the embrace of imperfection. Good luck." With a final nod, he turned and melted into the shadows, leaving Henry and Clara caught in uncertain silence. "What just happened?" Clara murmured, her brow furrowed. I don't know," Henry replied, trying to process their encounter. The man's words swirled around in his mind like the colors on their canvases. But as they turned back to the fair, the spark of community felt more alive than ever. Whatever the man's intentions were, he had ignited a flicker of inspiration inside Henry, and deep down, he realized something profound was about to shift within them. Their community wouldn't just rebuild, it would become something more than they had ever imagined. But as laughter echoed and excitement reignited, a feeling of unease lingered like clouds before a storm. What other challenges lay ahead? Henry and Clara exchanged a charged look, their minds racing with the man's words. They turned back to their colorful booth, the energy of the crowd around them still lively, but now laced with a sort of urgency. Henry couldn't shake the feeling that their encounter was just the beginning. It was almost magical how the twinkling lights above pulsed with laughter and joy, mingling with the hints of lingering unease in the air. As they worked on their installation, repairing corners and adding finishing touches, he couldn't help but think of the stranger's message. Was there something beneath the surface of their community that needed revealing? "Hey, Henry." Clara's cheerful voice pulled him from his thoughts. "Look at this." She held up a vibrant banner they had created together, now adorned with colorful paint splatters and splashes of creativity. It felt like a reflection of their emotions, the combination of hope and uncertainty elegantly woven through each brushstroke. "It's beautiful, Clara," he said, his heart warming at her enthusiasm. "It really captures what we've been trying to say." As the sun dipped lower into the horizon, casting warm hues across the fair, a crowd began to gather around their booth. Children giggled, families took pictures, and for a moment, Henry felt a surge of pride for what they had accomplished together. But even amid this joy, Henry's gaze flicked to the entrance of the fairgrounds, scanning the shadows for any sign of the man. What had he really meant by his words? What other stories lay hidden in their community's heart? Just then, a loud crash echoed through the fair and Henry's heart dropped. A booth across from theirs had toppled over. The sound of wood splintering sent people scattering in surprise. Clara was immediately at his side, eyes wide with worry. "Henry, we should help." Nodding, they rushed toward the chaos. Other volunteers had already started to assist with the fallen booth, but Henry's instincts kicked in. He could see an elderly woman trapped beneath the wreckage, her face pale and strained. Fear gripped him like a vice. Clenching his fists, he dove in, adrenaline spiking as he lifted wooden beams off her. "Help me!" he shouted, urgency coating his voice. Clara and a couple of others rushed to his side. Together, they moved fast and finally cleared the debris. The woman's frail body emerged, shaken but safe. Relief washed over Henry, making his legs feel like jelly. He didn't realize how hard he had been holding his breath until he heard the crowd explode into relieved cheers. "Thank you." The woman gasped, her eyes sparkling even through tears. "You saved my life." As applause and gratitude surrounded him, Henry felt something new swell inside of him, a realization. This moment, this connection between people, was what the stranger had spoken of. Their community wasn't just about rebuilding a fair, it was about lifting one another in times of need, embracing every imperfection and challenge. "I didn't even see it coming," Clara said quietly beside him, her voice barely above the cheers. "But we did it together." Support and hope surged within him, but at that moment, he also recalled the stranger's parting words. If every community held hidden stories, then perhaps there were more challenges lurking just around the corner. As night fell and stars began to twinkle overhead, Henry couldn't shake the feeling that their work was far from over. The booth stood as a testament to their resilience, but what other transformations awaited them? Faint whispers drifted in from the shadowy outskirts of the fair. Henry felt a chill creep back up his spine. Was that the stranger he saw again in the distance? What was he waiting for? What awaited them next? Henry strained his eyes, trying to pierce the darkness gathering at the edge of the fairgrounds. The crowd buzzed around him, but all he could hear was the rush of his own heart, pounding like a drum. Clara's hand found his, squeezing it with a warmth that chased away the chill creeping along his spine. "Do you see him?" she asked, glancing nervously towards the shadows. "No," he admitted, shaking his head. But something tells me he is still near. The energy of the fair had shifted. The music and laughter mingled with murmurs of concern, each whispered word laced with uncertainty. Henry felt it, a sense of anticipation hanging in the air, thick as the summer night that surrounded them. He took a deep breath, letting the buzz of the fair seep back into him, pulling him out of his spiraling thoughts. I wonder what happens next. Clara pondered, her eyes sparkling despite the anxiety threading through her tone. You think he meant for us to change things? Maybe, he replied. Maybe he was pointing us towards something we don't see yet. With that thought, Henry turned back to their booth, his gaze landing on the vibrant banner. Its colors danced in the light, a stark contrast to the looming shadows outside. This was their creation, a piece of them they had poured their hearts into, a testament to resilience, a splash of hope in a chaotic world. Just as he settled into the familiarity of the booth, a sudden shout pierced the cool night air. Over there! Someone fainted. Eyes widened, Henry and Clara sprang into action. They rushed toward the small gathering forming near one of the games, urgent whispers floating in the air. A young girl lay sprawled on the pavement, her friends huddled around her, panic on their faces. Help! She wake up! One girl cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. Henry knelt beside the girl, noticing the tracks of fear etching deep lines in her friend's expressions. Give her some space, please, he said, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. Clara, can you grab some water? Clara nodded, darting away as Henry checked the girl's pulse. It was faint but there. A wave of relief washed over him, yet the urgency clawed at him. Stay with me, he urged, gently shaking her shoulder. Can you hear me? Moments later, Clara was back, pouring water into the girl's mouth. Come on, darling, she whispered, her voice soothing yet commanding, just take a sip slowly. The girl blinked, her eyes drifting open as she registered the chaos around her. What happened? She murmured, confusion clouding her features. You fainted, Henry said, heart racing with adrenaline. But you're okay now. Just breathe. As her friends crowded closer, relief spreading across their faces, Henry felt a spark ignite again within him. This was what it meant to be a community. Here they were, helping each other, offering support where it was needed the most. The girl sat up, taking in the scene, and then suddenly, she smiled, a bright, pure smile that lit up her friends' worried faces. I think I just got a little dizzy, she said, laughter catching in her throat. The crowd erupted into cheers and laughter, a wave of joy rushing over them. Clara slipped her hand into Henry's, her grip steady and reassuring. Did you see that? She exclaimed, eyes shimmering with excitement. Just like that, we made a difference again. But as the last echoes of laughter faded, Henry's heart began to pound with anxiety again. They had helped, yes, but what else lay ahead? The mysterious stranger loomed larger in his mind than ever. Questions circled. What was he preparing them for? The thought clung to him like a shadow. In that moment of joy, uncertainty bubbled just beneath the surface. The fair was a space of connection but also of hidden trials. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of movement again there. The stranger stood, watching from a distance, his eyes glinting like stars that masked untold stories. This time, a different kind of urgency surged through Henry. Clara, he whispered, leaning in close. We need to find him now. I think something is about to unfold. Without hesitation, they started toward the edge of the fair. Each step felt heavy, their hearts racing with anticipation. What truths awaited? What challenges would they face when they reached the shadows? As they approached the stranger, the air thickened with a promise that something incredible was about to be revealed. Henry and Clara made their way through the bustling fairgrounds, each step moving them closer to the mysterious figure. The cheers and laughter faded into the background, replaced by a thudding heartbeat in their ears. The man stood just beyond the glow of lights, his silhouette framed by the twinkling stars. Are you ready? Clara whispered, squeezing Henry's hand. "No turning back now," he replied, feeling a strange mix of excitement and apprehension. They had come so far together, it was time to face whatever truths lay ahead. As they approached, the man's expression shifted. The smile softened, and curiosity danced in his eyes. "You sought me out." "Courageous of you," he said, his voice smooth and rich. "What do you want from us?" Henry asked, his tone steady, but his heart raced. "I wanted to see if you were willing to embrace more than just a moment's unity," he replied. "The fair is ephemeral, it may be here today, but tomorrow it will fade. You must decide your community's future beyond this spectacle." "Future?" Clara echoed, brows furrowing. "What do you mean?" The man gestured toward the fair, where laughter still bubbled like soda pop, but now with a tinge of anxiety. "Look at their smiles, their connections. Can they withstand the storms of life when the fair ends? What will happen to them when the music fades?" Henry felt that knot in his stomach tighten. "You think they can't stay united?" "Many communities flounder when the fun fades and hardships rise," he replied. "Your task is to turn these ephemeral moments into something everlasting. To hold on to this newfound connection and push through challenges together." He could feel Clara's pulse quicken, fear and hope intertwining in her eyes. "But how?" The man stepped closer, a glimmer of something profound in his eyes. "It takes continuous effort. Growth demands nurturing. You've experienced camaraderie, now spread it. Foster workshops, art classes, community service projects. It's South time for Maple Grove to truly come alive." Suddenly, it clicked for Henry. The stranger wasn't just a catalyst for change, he was a guide. "You've been watching us this whole time for a reason, haven't you?" "Yes," he admitted, his expression steady. "I saw potential in you, Henry. You felt the community's heartbeat. It's ready for something more. But it needs you to steer it." That weight in Henry's heart shifted. He looked past the stranger, seeing families who had cheered for him earlier, people he'd never imagined standing together this way. "This can't just end here. We need to keep this spirit alive." "Yes," the man nodded. "But the real work begins after the fair. Define your vision. Make it real." As the stranger's words washed over him, Henry felt a swell of determination. This wasn't just about saving a fair, it was about rebuilding the very fabric of Maple Grove. Turning to Clara, he locked eyes with her, an unspoken promise passing between them. "We can lead this, can't we?" "Yes," she said, her voice strong. "Together." The stranger stepped back, an approving smile appearing on his face. "Then go. Ignite change. I'll be watching." With that, he disappeared into the night, leaving behind a crackling energy of possibilities ignited in Henry and Clara. "Let us gather everyone," Henry said, and with her nod, they moved toward the heart of the fair, purpose coursing through them. "Thank you all for coming together today," Henry called out, standing atop a makeshift platform. The crowd turned toward him, intrigued. "This fair is just the beginning of who we can be as a community. We have the chance to connect in ways we never thought possible. Let us keep that spirit alive. Together, we can turn this moment into something lasting." Cheers erupted, the crowd buzzing with renewed energy at the thought of change. Farmers, families, artists, old classmates, all united under shared purpose. Henry gestured toward Clara. "We want to organize classes, community projects, create art that represents us all. Who's with us?" "Me. Count me in." Voices chimed back, each resonating with the promise of transformation. In that moment, laughter and hope intertwined like the colors on their canvases, stronger than ever. They would face challenges, but as a unified force, they would thrive and grow. As the fair wound down, Henry glanced at the horizon, knowing a new day awaited them. There would be ups and downs, but resilience flourished in the hearts of those who dared to embrace change. Driving back towards the heart of Maple Grove, a radiant smile crossed his face as he realized, this was their time. Their story was no longer one of isolation but of unbreakable bonds forged through shared experiences, and so, with the night sky shimmering above, they stepped forward, ready to embrace whatever came next. Now, to you, dear viewer, this is the moment for you to act. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive stories filled with transformation and inspiration. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm that helps us grow and share these heartfelt tales. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Let your voice be heard. And remember, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the urgency of supporting our journey.